Grow to Row, so that's all we're going to talk about. What is it? Where we are now, the actual document itself, accreditation, benefits, what action is needed, revalidation process and key contacts. I'll not blab it off, I'll just get the key points. It's basically an accreditation scheme, so it's a kite mark for Scottish rowing clubs. It's based on Sport England Club Mark, you've probably heard of it, and many local authorities have a similar version. So Glasgow have Club Mark, you've got Club Cap, Aberdeen, what? Club Cap, you've got Club Cap.
I don't know.
Yeah, you have, believe me. But a lot of local authorities have a similar scheme. So this basically should dovetail into the local authority schemes. However, it's probably going to be slightly higher up in terms of requirements because it's rowing specific. And it talks about our sport. So you could do your local authority club mark and upskill to Grow to Row, or vice versa. Do Grow to Row, go to your local authority and say, we've done that, and then you can basically match that across. Not every local authority does them in Scotland. Although I believe, is it a Sport England requirement that all local authorities have them? Michael?
Say again?
Is it a Sport England requirement all local authorities have club mark?
Well, we have the Women's Club Mark.
Yeah.
It is. Not all clubs have it though. But if you want to move on, as we do,
Yeah.
and you do, especially with the Learn to Row projects for juniors,
Yeah.
then you need to have that club mark.
Yeah.
And it has to be vetted every year.
Yes.
And if you're in a local authority area where the local authority doesn't have the scheme available,
They will have in England. In England they will have.
In England
They do have. Yeah. It's a bit different. It's not a Sport Scotland led programme in Scotland, which is unusual, where it is a Sport England led programme down in England. Anyway, enough time. So it's an accreditation, so it's a kite mark for clubs. And basically what it's built around is that you're safe, well governed, and you have you use good best practice on all aspects of running your clubs and dealing with your members, etc. So where are we now? We've run a pilot with 2 clubs, that being Glasgow University, Castle Semple, the community club and the university club. It was important we did that. We had to match off what a community club needs in terms of their governance and what a university needs, because there is differences, obviously. Child protection legislation, however, it was highlighted massively there was a need for protecting vulnerable groups within the university. So we needed to change the documentation a little bit to suit universities as opposed to community. Based on the feedback we received from the 2 clubs, we made amendments to the documents, so we now have a university-specific Grow to Row and a club Grow to Row. Packaging, we've been on the route to packaging. This is just a template. It's not finished at all. This will be a nice, clear, branded up folder. So we will have that. And additionally, it's already on our website, so if you actually go on the website you can start downloading Grow to Row if you wish to. Next is to roll out to Scottish clubs. We do have targets, but for me it would be brilliant if everybody did it, to be fair. It's not over onerous, but it can be. Most of the clubs think it's going to be, but actually you've probably got most of the processes already in place, and it's just a case of acknowledging that and ensuring that your policies are policies that are actually being used as such and not just gathering dust on shelves. That's effectively how it works out. So the accreditation document covers the criteria down the bottom. Competition programme. All clubs enter competitions. Have you got a competition programme? So if somebody enters your club, have they got the opportunity to progress in competition if they wish to? Duty of care, safeguarding vulnerable groups. So vulnerable groups comes under university, safeguarding comes under club. Equality and diversity, club management and volunteers. So that's basically the criteria we look at. I don't know if you can read that. Benefits. It will help you because you get increased membership. Retention, it'll help you through that because the process we're going through, we've spoken about initiatives for development. That's all part of what Grow to Row is. Club development strategies, that's all part of what Grow to Row is. And policies. And creating a positive, friendly environment for everybody to become part of your club. So that's all part of what Grow to Row is. Through this, hopefully you'll recruit more volunteers. There's templates for job descriptions, such as a volunteer coordinator, coach coordinator, all those type of things that can help you in your club find the right people to slot into various roles you need. School club links, becoming an accredited club is something that schools and local authorities are recognising, again, as a governing body, kite mark, to say we recognise this club as being safe and effective. You can work with this club. It will increase your profile. You can take that, put it on your website. We have an accredited club. So if somebody looks on your website and says, I want to join a rowing club, are they going to look at your club as an accredited club as opposed to a club that's not accredited? And if they understand what the criteria is. Officers of time, we'll commit more officers' time to clubs that are working with Grow to Row. We find it's going to be valuable in terms of your development, and we'll be able to support you better to achieve everything you want to do. Coach education support, we spoke about subsidy. It's something we're going to discuss with the board, but subsidy of coach education will go down towards accredited clubs. So we need to think about things like that. It's not signed off, so we won't get too hung up. And the other thing as well, it's becoming a requirement for funding, for government funding, that clubs are recognised through governing body accreditation schemes or local authority. So that's probably the biggest one. So your awards for all, your legacy awards, all them type of awards, they normally say on them, are you an accredited club? And you'll get priority over them. So what action do we need from the club? Basically, I've given every club a registration form. It is online, so you can download the registration, fill out the form, send it in. Arrange a meeting with your local representative. I'll bring the names up at the end, which are basically the RDMs. So Maddie in the west, Sophie in the north, and I'll represent the east until we get our east in. And then we'll go through it. It's a 12-month process we laid out. Castle, Semple and Glasgow University had 3 months to batter through it, so I think they've done a sterling job to get where they have. Once we've accredited you through a Grow to Row 12-month process, it's then basically you making sure you're implementing everything and you're carrying it forward, so you're becoming more active in terms of policy rollout, etc. We re-accredit every 12 months, so exactly what you spoke about. Every 12 months we'll revisit and say, are you doing ABC? Can you evidence so many qualified coaches as laid out against your development plan in terms of your ratio of participants? Child welfare officers, are they up to date in terms of their training, safeguarding and time to listen? All those type of things that are built into it. So it's just ensuring we're carrying the right way through. We're also going to be doing spot checks. So we give you accreditation, but 6 months down the line, we'll just come in and say, how are you working? Let's have a look at your documentation. Is it up to date? So it's not to keep you on your toes, it's just to ensure that the accreditation is what it is. Because I do know some accreditation you get, Glasgow, when was the last time you heard from them? Glasgow City Council or Glasgow Life? So Clydesdale got their accreditation, there you go, photograph, we're in the paper, you never had anything since. So it's just a follow-up, just to support you to carry on with the process. That's the revalidation process, which I've just spoken about. And there's your key contacts. So, like I said, I'll be covering the east. So east clubs get in touch with me. Madeline's covering the west, and Sophie covers the north. And I believe both Madeline and Sophie would be speaking to their relevant clubs, but certainly for the east clubs, just get hold of me and we'll get going on it. Any questions on that?
Yeah, just glimpsing through the form. Maybe we are unusual, I think we probably are, in Aberdeen, that we have 4 clubs, 4 active clubs.
Yep.
One's a junior club.
Yep.
We're the senior club. We have no junior members because they're hived off to the junior club.
Yep.
So a lot of these boxes at the back.
Safeguarding.
Well, I can't remember who. Does your club have a designated child welfare officer?
Yeah.
We can't say yes or no. We really like a not applicable box because it isn't applicable.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's what I said. So that's where the meeting with your officer.
Sophie,
Yeah, basically say, well, we haven't got that, so we don't really need that. We can take that out. So that's not a problem. It's the same thing we did with the universities when we were looking at it.
On your user accreditation, I go through a lot of audits at work.
Yeah.
And what often happens is you get an audit year after year after year. Then once you've reached, say, 3 audits and you've scored more than 80% each one, it gets relaxed. Every 2 years.
Is
that something you think about?
No, it's not so much an audit. It's
No,
more.
it's not an audit.
It's more around qualifications. So we spoke about licensing, CPD, and coaches. We'll say, are your coaches going through a CPD? Are they licensed coaches? So that will all fit into the Grow to Row. So it's not so much. have you got this, have you got that, have you got that, have you got that, your account's in order. It's more around, have you got a child protection policy, do you have a change room policy, are people aware of that, can they see it, is it visible, who's your welfare officer, what's their qualification. So it's more around kind of the workings of policy as opposed to auditing what you've got. See what I mean?
On the website,
Yep.
is there more information for, I'll have to go back to the club and sort of hand this into the committee, and I might not explain this as well as you may have. Is there more information on the website that I can say, go and read that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. And likewise with Aberdeen, there's Club CAP, which is their version of accreditation. That's Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire councils, cross local authority accreditation.
I don't know whether we're going down that route.
Yeah. I believe as are a Club CAP.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Any other questions? Well, I'll hand you over to my colleague, Emma, who's going to just talk you through the process and what their findings and what have you are.
So I'm Emma Baxter. I am Secretary at Glasgow University Boat Club, and at the start of last semester we were approached by Scottish Rowing to pilot this scheme as a university sports club. The project was undertaken by myself and the club captain. We approached it with our committee and chatted through it. As a university club, we see a huge turnover of students every year. At the moment we have about 126 members. A lot of those would be novices, and keeping them on to sort of like committee level or sort of at a level where they can continue with the administrative side of the club can sometimes be quite hard. And it means continuity is a problem. So the first thing that really appealed to us about this scheme was the fact that it allowed us to put procedures in place that allowed continuity from year to year. So when we're handing over to other committees and other student members, that there was just a level of continuity. So we get support for club development from both the university and from Scottish Rowing, but at a sort of grassroots foundational level. It was really helpful for us as the committee to have procedures clarified. So the sections covered were the competition programme, duty of care, safeguarding vulnerable groups, equality and diversity, club management and volunteers. And these are all aspects of the club that we have well managed. But again, going through, we were given a file when we signed up to the programme, and going through that we realised that even though it seemed quite daunting, a lot of these we had in place but we just hadn't formalised, and it was very helpful to do that. We agreed with Mark and Maddie a date for completion, and we did it in a 2-month turnaround. An awful lot of things we had to re-clarify as a university sports club. We don't really have juniors. Obviously, I think we maybe have 4, because of the way Scottish universities work. You can come at 17. Technically, you have maybe 4 or 5 a year that count as juniors. However, when we actually looked into it, and I don't know if it's the same with other universities, Glasgow University have a policy which means that if you're in university halls, you still count as a vulnerable adult. And it was something that we just didn't really know or hadn't looked at. So it meant that we were able to put procedures in place to deal with these vulnerable adults. So throughout the process, we were provided with templates and examples. We had regular meetings with both Mark and Maddie to talk through how we were doing. And the biggest challenge for us was simply collating a huge amount of administrative material in quite a short period of time, though I can imagine over the period of 12 months. It wouldn't be a problem. So not only did the scheme allow us to formalise aspects of our club management, it allowed us to appreciate and handle our volunteers more. We, as a university club, we rely very much so on volunteers to come in and help with our coaching, and it allowed us just to sort of maybe make their role a little bit more official, a little bit more appreciated, as well as putting guidelines in place to handle their role within the club. When we were doing it, and as Mark said, we found that the scheme did need to be tailored for university clubs. There were quite a few things in it that weren't applicable. One of the things that was quite noticeable is there's quite a lot with dealing with parents and carers, which is something that as a university sports club we just don't do and don't really have a need to. However, as I said, in terms of dealing with the volunteers, all that stuff was really helpful because it was an aspect that we just hadn't really formalised before. And on completion, we ultimately found, after we had reviewed it with Mark and Maddie and then had reviewed it all of our committee, it provides just one solid document, more proactive style of sort of club management, and it's one that we have found beneficial, especially moving forward as we have our AGM and pass on to the next committee. So,
does anybody have any questions on accreditation? Like I said, it's really to get the clubs to sign up arrange a meeting, and then we'll come through and talk you through it. I said, when you kind of look at it on the website and stuff like that, you might think, oh my God, what am I getting myself into? But actually, a lot of the stuff that you already got, and it's just reconfirming it, as Emma said, and actually then implementing it as policy. Divided up. If you've got a child protection policy, do you divvy it up in the sense that it probably should be? Is your child protection policy up to date? We highlighted that when we went to see Castle Semple. They had a child protection policy, but legislation had changed by 5 years and it hadn't been updated, and that was no fault of their own. It was just a case of they hadn't reviewed it, and that's and looking at the policy, etc.
If I come in from our perspective, I think it's caused good housekeeping. To begin with, our committee and coaches were looking at it and going, not really liking this idea. And then once you discussed it, but yeah, it was me that had done the child protection policy a few years ago. I hadn't kept on top of keeping it updated. And that discussion you said about how your rowing club was, you inherited a community of rowers. That's kind of what the committee was like. There was lots of people doing different jobs, but no one person pulling it all together. And I would say this is really good housekeeping. It pulls it all together. It's all kept in one file. So if you're doing funding or anything, everything's there. Everything's there as a record, and we have one person in charge of that who, all her job is to liaise with Mark, but then she comes and delegates and goes, right, it's this time to do this, and what CPD if you do. And I just think it's been a really good way. Yeah, it was quite on it. I mean, we had a lot of things in place, but they weren't quite in place. So it was a good way of pushing it all together and keeping it all in the one place. And yeah, it's that continuity, because we all have committees that change. And yeah, I did child protection a few years ago and then moved on to other jobs, and even within committees people change. So I think it's been a positive. I think it has been a really positive thing to do, and the fact that it is going to get checked once a year, or not checked but kept up to date, it's just good housekeeping. It keeps all the governance, all the stuff that kind of maybe slides away as we take on bigger projects. It just keeps it all together, so I think it's a positive.
In your new project, ALL, because with Clubmark we actually have a 5-year plan as well.
Yep.
Integrated into that.
Yep.
So we've got a and then that keeps constantly updating every year.
Yep.
As things change, and especially last we've changed ours quite substantially over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
As we keep on renewing it.
Yeah, I think that's part of the Grow to Row is looking at the plan and developing it. And they say it could be a university plan, which could be over 12 months. It could be a club band plan, which could be over 4, 5, 6 years. So it's to fit the needs of the club. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's it for another year. Just like to thank you very much for your time today. It's been brilliant. We've thrown a lot of stuff at you. I hope you're taking some out. We will be getting the videos will be going up on YouTube and also on our website as well, so you can get the videos to reference back to if you haven't taken it all in. Just the one message, just to reiterate where I'm coming from, and Amanda kind of mentioned this morning, is basically we have got Rio coming up next year, and are we ready for Rio? Are we ready for the influx? Were we ready for the last time we had an Olympic cycle? So if we can look at the club expansion stuff, the extra activity, talking about becoming better coaches, CPD licensing, we take that part away from us and just get ready for Rio. Thank you.